And a good Wednesday evening, folks. I'm 13 News Now Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages. Thanks for joining us, part of our extended coverage of the impacts of Tropical Storm Debby as it moves towards Hampton Roads over the coming days. I do want to let you know that tomorrow and Friday have been designated as weather alert days. We put those in action when we have impactful weather on the way for portions of the viewing area, and that looks to be the case for the next 48 hours or so. So impacts that we're expecting will be some heavy rain, tropical-like downpours rolling through the area like we've seen over past days. Looks to be just a little more numerous in the days to come. And there is also a tornado risk as we get into tomorrow evening, overnight into Friday morning, and maybe even the first half of the day on Friday as well. So as I mentioned, on and off tropical downpours are going to be with us for the next several days. As you know, Debby is a very slow-moving system. It is still parked near South Carolina, hasn't moved very far since we spoke last evening, but it will start to move faster, and that will impact our forecast in a positive way going into the upcoming week, and I'll break that down in just a little bit. With those tropical downpours, our concern is those high rainfall rates. So we've got a lot of moisture, a lot of tropical moisture available in the atmosphere. So when we get these showers and downpours to roll on through, they take advantage of all that moisture, and it produces rainfall rates 1 to 2 inches per hour, maybe more, that could overwhelm drainage basins, cause street flooding, and things like that. So that's going to be our concern going into the next 48 hours. And that tornado threat Thursday night and Friday. Now, I do want to stress it is not an overwhelming threat, but I just don't want you to be surprised if you see us cut in during programming tomorrow evening, overnight, and into Friday morning, or if you get the EAS alerts on your phone that wakes you up in the middle of the night. That's the possibility as we get into that time frame. So we'll watch that very carefully. So breaking down the impacts or the threats that we're expecting here from Debby. Winds overall will not be a huge impact for the area. You'll start to notice it getting a little more breezy tomorrow afternoon through the overnight into Friday. Along the immediate coastline, those gusts could reach 40 miles per hour, and with them sustained out of the south and east, some coastal flooding is a possibility, but it will likely be minor coastal flooding. And we're talking about the northern shore of the Albemarle Sound, getting up into Back Bay, southern Virginia Beach, those areas that when they see southeasterly winds for a prolonged period of time, could see some water coming up and over normal areas. Severe storms, that tornado threat that I just mentioned, we'll get into more detail in a second on Futurecast. And the flooding threat. What you'll notice is a very large range with a steep gradient in terms of projected totals, 1 to 5 inches. Maybe some areas seeing a little bit more, maybe some areas not even getting an inch of rain. It's all dependent on the storm track, which now looks to be setting up farther to the west, which would take the corridor or the axis, the focal point of the heaviest rain, to set up along or even west of I-95, maybe even closer to I-81 as we get into the next 48 hours or so. So that's something to contend with. Here's the latest update on Debby. 5 o'clock advisory coming out of the Hurricane Center. Since we talked yesterday, Debby is stronger. Why? Well, it meandered with its slow movement, 3 miles per hour at the current advisory. It meandered east and offshore. So now it's back over its fuel source, the warm ocean waters. That did help it to gain some strength, 60 mile per hour wind, so a medium range tropical storm. Tropical storm ranges from 39 miles per hour, well, really 40 miles per hour through 74 miles per hour. So we're right in the middle of that threshold there. It is moving at the northeast at 3 miles an hour, but with that slow movement, it's still got several more hours over open water. So in the forecast for Debby, it does actually gain a little bit more strength before moving back over land in South Carolina, likely near Myrtle Beach, late tonight and early tomorrow morning. Regardless, slow mover right now, very far away from us here in Hampton Roads. We are seeing the fringe effects of the far outer bands pivoting on through around Debby. That's bringing us our rain chances, which for the most part have been on the lighter side the last 12 hours or so. I do want to show you something interesting here. If we go back 24 hours on water vapor satellite imagery. What you're looking at here is the satellite showing with its filter of areas in the atmosphere, mid-levels, that are moist or dry. The dry air is the rust color, the yellows. And notice in the first couple of frames there, you see some of that dry air getting wrapped in to Debby's circulation. It took a big old gulp of dry air late last night, and that did stunt its intensification, albeit being over warm waters at that time. If that didn't happen, we probably could have seen a stronger Debby at this point in time, but that did help to choke it off just a little bit, and it did kind of shut down the heavy rain machine that was going for so many days there with its slow movement. But that's now gone. It's now intensifying again. So 60-mile-per-hour winds. Here's the track. Takes it north. By tomorrow afternoon, it should be up over the low country of South Carolina and eventually heading through central North Carolina and then passing by well to our west. You see, we're not even in the cone anymore here in Hampton Roads, but that doesn't matter, right? Because the storm impacts are felt well outside of the cone. This is just where the center of Debby will track. And by the way, 2/3 of the time it stays within that track. There's 1/3 of the time it heads outside of it. So take that with what it is. By 2 o'clock in the morning Friday, 35-mile-per-hour tropical depression here, right along the state line of North Carolina and Virginia, tracking along the I-81 corridor. This presents some changes to our forecast that are positive in nature. So a more western path does take the heaviest rain, like I mentioned, the heaviest rain, the focal point of the heaviest rain and flood threat, really, to the west, probably along or even west of I-95. It's also going to be moving faster. The slow movement of 3 to 5 miles per hour is going to be replaced by a forward speed of maybe 25 to 30 miles per hour or even faster as it gains latitude. Why is it going to start moving faster? Well, it's going to interact with a cold front that's quasi-stationary to our north. That will act to kind of lift it up and pull it into some stronger upper-level winds that will guide it faster to the north and east. So that faster track also contributes to lower rain totals here because it just won't have as much time in our area to dump significant amounts of rain. But that leads to a quicker exit, which is great news if you've got weekend plans. I see improving weather as early as late Friday night. Still some lingering left behind moisture, probably for some light showers early in the day on Saturday, but leading to drier conditions and eventually a wind shift on Saturday and Sunday that should contribute to lower humidity, so more comfortable conditions too. However, before that happens, we still have the flood threat, although the flood threat I think is much lower, and the tornado threat too that we're going to walk through in a minute. So here's the 5-day rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, a branch of the National Weather Service, okay? Still has, significant totals, additional on top of a foot and a half of rain that some of these areas have already seen. Focused in North and South Carolina. As you get farther north into Virginia, you're seeing totals dropping. 2 to 4 inches in the dark green, lighter green, 1 to 2 inches. And that encompasses most of Hampton Roads. We're looking at generally 2 to 4 on the high end, a lot of areas 1 to 2. And I'm going to show you that a localized version here in just a second. But let's walk through Futurecast. Because right now, models here are picking up very well on the current situation. They're initializing well. This is pretty close to what radar actually looks like right now. We got some light showers, some more moderate showers off to the south. And that will be the trend, developing to the southeast, lifting to the north and west, the outermost fringe, right, of the circulation of Debby. We see that continuing overnight tonight. Tomorrow morning, likely still some downpours around. So may run into those on the Thursday morning commute. But by Thursday afternoon, with that shift of a farther western track, we could be looking at a large chunk of time tomorrow afternoon that we are just cloudy, breezy, warm and muggy with a lot of the rain well to our west, which is good news. That would lower our flood threat tomorrow. Then getting into around sunset Thursday, look what's lurking to the west. We're starting to see the bands a little bit more intense. And this is the time frame we'll watch for that tornado threat. You can see some of these cells here. Let me draw it in so it's a little bit easier to see. These cells here that indicate that they're probably going to be rotating, okay? Not particularly like strong in nature, but when you already have the atmosphere spinning and that spin encountering the friction of the land, it increases wind shear, right, which is the change in wind speed and direction with height. It spins storms if they get going. So this tends to make it a little bit easier for some brief, usually weak tornadoes, not all the time, usually weak tornadoes to develop. And we've already seen that play out with Debby as it made landfall in Florida, as it's been meandering off the southeast coastline as well. So there's that. Watch the progression of these. They're lifting up along the I-95 corridor late Thursday night into early Friday morning. This is another concern of mine. If we do have a tornado threat playing out nocturnally in the middle of the night, I want you to be prepared to get warnings in the middle of the night. You may have on your phones that you can turn it on for EAS alerts from the National Weather Service. On the 13 News Now app, you could turn on alerts as well. Make sure you have it audible so you can hear it, so it can wake you up in the middle of the night if these tornado warnings do play on out. So here we are, middle of the night, watching the bands move into Hampton Roads, west to east. These will likely still be spinning here around daybreak on Friday. By the way, team weather coverage starting tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening and Friday morning and evening too. So tomorrow night will be Evan and I, and then Friday morning as well as tomorrow morning will be Taylor and Hunter. So we're going to be all over this if there are any warnings, so we'll make sure you're updated. But here we are through lunchtime on Friday. We still have that band that'll likely have some rotating cells with it, lifting through our area and then finally pushing east and northeast and things quieting down by Friday evening. Here's a snapshot of what it may look like Friday at 7:30. So drying conditions, it'll still be warm and muggy because our wind direction hasn't shifted yet. But overnight Friday and early Saturday, there's that wind shift. You see to our north and west, winds turning northerly. That should help to drop dew points and bring in a more comfortable air mass. But still some lingering moisture there, right? We still have a few showers developing in these areas that could bring our rain risk. I got a 30% chance on it for Saturday morning. So not completely dry yet, but lower rain chances. All right, Storm Prediction Center puts out an outlook. Level 1 through 5 in terms of a severe weather threat. The yellow is a level 2 out of 5. Green, level 1. So it is higher than it was yesterday, but it's not overwhelmingly high, okay? And most of this threat looks to be a little bit farther to our west, but some of those rotating cells could survive and push farther to the east. All right, here's the changes in the rain totals. 1 to 2 for most of us, and then there'll probably be a corridor of heavier rain well to our west. Closer to I-95, higher the totals, and also probably still higher totals in northeastern North Carolina. This is up through lunchtime on Saturday. So it's spread out over several days. But with the heavy rainfall rates, high rainfall rates, it'll likely still lead to some street flooding in a few areas. Rain chances tonight, they're up there, 50-50 odds, even higher than that through most of the overnight. But then tomorrow, starting off with rain chances in the morning, and then dropping through midday through most of the afternoon, just cloudy, humid, and breezy, and then kicking up again as we get towards sunset with that tornado threat off to the west, building east. Then that should clear us out nicely, as you saw with the progression of the models. By Saturday, 30% mainly morning shower chances, 87. And then Saturday, 85, partly cloudy to maybe even mostly sunny. I do think there's still an isolated chance for a shower, especially down south along the beaches. But 85, but improving weather, so not too bad at all. So that's how things shape up as we go into the weekend. We've got a couple days with weather alert days tomorrow and Friday for the flood threat, which I think has gone down, has diminished in a lot of areas, and that tornado threat, too, that looks to come in tomorrow night into the first half of the day on Friday. So we'll be on top of that. Also, if you're asking what about winds, I see them being breezy tomorrow into Friday, but gusts along the coast may be maxing out at 40. Not overwhelmingly. I'm not expecting power outages and trees to be down or things like that. So that's the latest on Debbie for you. We'll have an update coming up at 11 o'clock on 13 News Now at 11. Tomorrow morning will be Taylor Stephenson and Hunter Forrest on daybreak, and then they'll do another extended version of what you're seeing here at 9 a.m. on our digital platform. So we hope you'll join us then. Our next broadcast is up at 11 o'clock. I'll see you then with Dana and Dan, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.